Thank you for joining me here today. To start off, new data reveals that China has defied Western sanctions and bought a vast amount of discounted oil from Russia. The latest Chinese custom data shows Russia beat out Saudi Arabia to become China's largest oil supplier last year. Russia was trading oil at bargain prices since it had been shunned by many international buyers after the Kremlin invaded Ukraine in 2022. And at the same time, Saudi Arabia cut production and raised prices for its signature Arab Light. This led China's spending on Russian crude to jump 24% and reach more than $60 billion. Now, overall trading between the two actually hit a fresh record high as well last year. And ahead of China facing the United Nations Human Rights Council, it has been lobbying non-Western countries to praise its human rights record. China's diplomatic mission sent notes to countries that requested these delegations support China. Some notes seen by Reuters include specific talking points, and China is facing the UN for the first time since a report says the detention of Uyghurs and other Muslims in China's Xinjiang region may constitute crimes against humanity. Meanwhile, home foreclosures in China have gradually been on the rise since 2020 and jumped last year as well. A new private survey found the number of foreclosed homes in China rose 43%. A research firm reported nearly 390,000 homes put up for auction during that time. This highlights a broader concern over rising mortgage delinquencies as part of the property market slump and lagging economic recovery. In fact, foreclosures overall, meaning residential, commercial, land, and more, reached a record high. China's stock market had a rough time last year, and now it's seeing the worst start to a year since 2019. Hong Kong's benchmark Hang Seng Index rose at its lowest level since late 2022. Investor confidence has been undermined by slow growth, a real estate crisis, an aging population, and this is on top of the disappointment over Chinese Premier Li Qiang not announcing new government stimulus. Now, China's major state-owned banks are trying to prevent the yuan from falling too fast. According to sources, they are tightening liquidity in the offshore foreign exchange market while actually selling U.S. dollars onshore to prop up the yuan. And here in the U.S., President Joe Biden announced student debt cancellation of nearly $5 billion for an additional 74,000 borrowers. And this is including more than half who earned forgiveness after 10 years of public service as teachers, nurses, and firefighters. Take a look.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Friday announced the cancellation of nearly $5 billion in student loan debt for 74,000 Americans. It's the latest attempt by his administration to deliver relief to borrowers, after the Supreme Court last year blocked Biden's earlier attempt to cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in debt.
With today's actions, the Biden-Harris administration has now canceled debts for 3.6 million Americans, and that's a big deal.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
Those receiving relief as a part of today's announcement include teachers, nurses, firefighters, and others who earned forgiveness after 10 years of public service. It also includes people who have been in repayment for 20 years but never got the relief that they earned.
The announcement by the White House brings the total loan forgiveness approved by the Biden-Harris administration to $136.6 billion. In a statement released by Biden, he said, quote, "I won't back down from using every tool at our disposal to get student loan borrowers the relief they need to reach their dreams." According to the Federal Student Aid website, as of June 2023, approximately 43.4 million student loan recipients had $1.63 trillion in outstanding loans. The figure represents an increase of nearly $17 billion in the outstanding loan balance, and almost 600,000 in the number of student loan recipients since last year.
And on to the stock market. The S&P 500 confirmed on Friday that it has been in a bull market since October 2022. This is because it notched a record high close for the first time in 2 years, fueled by an AI-driven rally. Here's more.
The S&P 500 posted a record high close on Friday for the first time in 2 years, confirming the index has been in a bull market since it closed at its low roughly 15 months ago. The Dow gained 1%, the S&P climbed 1.2%, and the Nasdaq soared 1.7%. Friday's rally was fueled by chip makers and other heavyweight tech stocks on optimism around artificial intelligence. Shares of server maker Supermicro Computer soared 36% after it lifted its second quarter profit forecast. That sparked gains in chip makers Qualcomm, Marvell Technology, and NVIDIA, all up more than 4%. Chipmaker stocks have gained since Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, the world's largest contract chip maker, said earlier this week that it saw booming demand for high-end chips used in AI. Its U.S.-listed shares gained another 1% on Friday after climbing 10% the prior session. Dryden Pence, chief investment officer at Pence Capital Management, says TSMC's industry dominance makes it a great long-term holding.
So when you think about AMD and you think about NVIDIA, you think about all these companies, you have to recognize that about 40% of what they do is a Taiwan semi chip. And so rather than have all those companies have the biggest thing that they have to have. And so when Taiwan Semi is so dominant, they have pricing power. Pricing power turns into excess earnings. We just saw that. And I think that that's a theme that's going to continue to go.
Microsoft and Apple, the world's two most valuable companies, also each rose more than 1%. In other company news, Travelers jumped more than 6.5% after the insurer's fourth quarter profit more than doubled. Shares of Spirit Airlines rebounded by more than 17% from losses earlier this week as it assessed options to refinance its 2025 debt maturities amid concerns over the airline's financial future. And iRobot slumped 27% after a report said the European Union's competition watchdog plans to block Amazon's $1.4 billion acquisition of the robot vacuum maker.
Social media platform Reddit has drawn up detailed plans to launch its initial public offering in March, moving forward with the listing it has been eyeing for years. This is according to people familiar with the matter. Here's more.
It would be the first IPO of a major social media company since Pinterest's debut in 2019, and would come as Reddit and its peers face stiff competition for advertising dollars from the likes of TikTok and Facebook. Reddit confidentially filed for its IPO more than 2 years ago. It's planning to make its public filing in late February, launch its roadshow in early March, and complete the IPO by the end of March, two of the sources said. They added that Reddit is seeking to sell about 10% of its shares in the IPO, and that it will decide on what IPO valuation it will pursue closer to the time of the listing. The San Francisco-based firm was valued at about $10 billion in a funding round in 2021. The offering would test the willingness of some Reddit users to back the company's stock market debut. Many investors posting on the platform have helped fuel dozens of meme stock rallies in the last 3 years, from retailer GameStop to movie operator AMC Entertainment. The company, which generates its revenue primarily through advertising and also offers premium access for $5.99 per month, has yet to turn a profit, a co-founder said in a Reddit post last June. It has attributed its losses to investing in the platform and its users engaging less with ads on its site than other social media. A corporate spokesperson declined to comment on the IPO plans, which sources cautioned could be pushed back.
A vast majority of economists polled in a new survey are becoming increasingly sure the U.S. should avoid a recession next year. An overwhelming 91% of economists told the National Association of Business Economics that the probability is 50% or less. The rising optimism is in line with inflation falling and an improving labor market, as well as increased consumer sentiment, which, by the way, hit a 2.5-year high last week. But economists reported that the biggest risks are higher interest rates, increased geopolitical instability, and higher costs. Meanwhile, ExxonMobil is battling some of its shareholders who want the company to address climate change. The company is suing two investors that want shareholders to vote on a proposal calling for faster emission cuts. Exxon has accused investors of hijacking the process used for proposing shareholder votes to advance their own agenda. Now, the non-binding resolution called on the company to accelerate its plans to reduce carbon emissions. Exxon says the proposal does not try to improve the company's economic performance or improve shareholder value. And the company wants to ban the proposal from appearing on the ballot for shareholders and is suing to get that accomplished. The U.S. Aviation Watchdog recommends airlines operating Boeing 737-900ER jets inspect door plugs to ensure they are properly insured. And this is after some operators reported unspecified issues with bolts upon inspection. Here's the report.
More trouble for Boeing after U.S. watchdogs warned airlines late Sunday to check for loose parts on another model. The recommendation comes after some operators of the 737-900ER reported unspecified issues with bolts during inspections. It has the same optional door plug design as the newer 737 MAX 9, the model used by Alaska Airlines when it suffered a mid-air blowout earlier this month. That led to the Federal Aviation Administration grounding 171 MAX 9 planes for safety checks. In an alert about the 737-900ER, the FAA said some airlines, quote, noted findings with bolts during additional maintenance checks. It recommended air carriers operating that model inspect their planes, specifically the 4 bolts used to secure the door plug to the airframe, as soon as possible. However, it added that the door plug has not been an issue with this model. A Boeing spokesperson said in an email, quote, "We fully support the FAA and our customers in this action." Boeing first delivered the 737-900ER in 2007 and the last one in 2019. As for the MAX 9, the FAA said on Sunday the jets will remain grounded until it, quote, is satisfied they are safe to return to service.
And Macys said it had rejected Ark House Management and partner Brigade Capital Management's $5.8 billion proposal to take the department store operator private, citing concerns over deal financing and valuation. Here are the details.
Macys has rejected a $5.8 billion takeover bid. The offer was made by investment firms Ark House Management and Brigade Capital. But the department store chain said it had concerns over the valuation and over the soundness of the financing. Macys is not running a sale process, and Reuters sources say no other unsolicited offers have emerged. Ark House and Brigade already have a big stake in the firm. They say investment bank Jefferies has vouched for their ability to fund the takeover. But Macys says their financial backing is not really committed and comes with all kinds of non-standard conditions attached. Some analysts say the bid just highlights how undervalued the company is relative to its real estate. The portfolio of land and buildings is estimated to be worth up to $11.6 billion. However, Macys has been struggling to compete with younger online rivals, which has sapped its share price. Ark House and Brigade felt that left the door open to a bid. Last week, Macys said it would shed 2,350 jobs and close 5 stores as it tries to streamline operations.
And Ford Motor is saying that it would reduce production of its F-150 Lightning pickup trucks as demand for electric vehicles soften. Here's more.
Ford is scaling back production of its F-150 Lightning pickup truck as demand for electric vehicles softens. The automaker on Friday said it would cut production at its Michigan Rouge Electric Vehicle Center to 1 shift starting April 1st. The move comes just 3 months after General Motors postponed the opening of a $4 billion EV plant, also in Michigan, by a year. Ford told suppliers last month it would produce about 1,600 F-150 Lightning EV trucks a week starting in January, roughly half of what it had previously planned. The automaker has said it lost an estimated $36,000 on each of the 36,000 EVs it delivered to dealers in the third quarter. The production cut comes at a time when Detroit automakers are protesting proposed emission rules from the Biden administration that would result in 67% of all new vehicles in 2032 being EVs. But Ford on Friday also said it's increasing production of its gas-powered Bronco SUVs and Ranger pickup trucks by adding 900 jobs at another Michigan plant.
Spirit Airlines is looking at options to refinance its debt and is not considering restructuring. This is according to a person familiar with the matter. Take a look.
Its merger with JetBlue was blocked by a judge. Now Spirit Airlines has some rethinking to do, and quickly. Shares in the airline plunged as much as 34% on Thursday as investors feared it was headed for restructuring. But the stock then pared losses after Reuters reported that Spirit was ruling out any such move. The company later confirmed that it was planning to shore up its balance sheet by refinancing its debts. A spokesperson said it was not pursuing any kind of statutory restructuring, contrary to earlier reports by the Wall Street Journal. Since a court blocked its merger plan on Tuesday, a number of analysts have downgraded Spirit stock. Some have said the airline could plan a bankruptcy filing in order to restructure. Ratings agencies Fitch and S&P have also warned of mounting concerns regarding debts. The negative noises have all weighed on Spirit stock, which is down by more than half since Tuesday. Its earnings have been sapped in recent months as it was forced to do deep discounts to fill its planes. The airline has also been hit hard by problems with engines on some of its jets. A judge blocked its merger with JetBlue over concern that the deal would be bad for consumers, and analysts see little prospect that the ruling can be overturned on appeal.
The art industry has shaped the direction of what types of artworks are often on display and how schools teach art. In keeping with traditional techniques alive for the present and the future, the NTD Art Competition has been showcasing the realistic look of traditional artistry. NTD's Sean Marshall has more.
With many art scenes putting focus and money into abstract art, how can the human race sustain traditional art techniques of the past? Having a competition with a show of mastery in composing the human figure is one way. And NTD's International Figure Painting Competition has been doing it for a number of years now. The competition's mission is to promote the pure beauty, pure goodness, and pure authenticity of traditional oil painting. Naturalism and realism style artists worldwide submitted figure paintings that convey traditional values and positive ideals such as beauty, compassion, and righteousness. Businesses and individuals seeking partnership can sponsor or donate to the NTD Global Competition Series by emailing oil painting at globalcompetitions.org. The public showcase at Salmagundi Club in Manhattan, New York ended on January 19th. But prints, posters, and other items of past event winners' artwork can be purchased at inspiredoriginal.org. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And that's all for today's episode. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.